By the end of this video, you will have your scene set up for grab interaction, wherein you will be able to grab an object either using the direct interactor or by using the Ray Interactor. So let's get started. Hey, what's up? This is Ashir from Immersive Insiders, and in this video, you're going to learn about grab interaction. Now, it is divided into two parts. In the first part, you'll be learning about the direct interaction, wherein you'll be using your controllers to move the objects around. And in the second part, you'll be learning about ray interaction, wherein you'll be using a ray to move the objects around. A quick disclaimer, this project is a continuation from the previous one, wherein we saw how to set up our project and scene for VR development using the Oculus integration SDK. Now, if you haven't checked out that video, then you should definitely do so over here and then get back to this. Alright, so let's begin. Alright, so for the grab interaction to work, there are two important components that we need. The first one is the interactor and the second one is the interactable. Now the interactor is going to be the controller and the interactable is going to be any object that you want to manipulate. Now let us start by adding the interactor. Now to do so, you need to open the children of sample rig and open the input OVR. Let's open the controllers, left controller, right controller, and inside both of them we have the controller interactor. So let's open that as well. Now in the project window, we'll search for controller grab interactor. So controller grab interactor, and then you can drag and drop this inside each one of the control interactors. So for the left hand, we'll name this as left, and let us drag and drop this for the right hand as well, and we'll name this as right. Now we need to reference the controller. So let us click the left grab interactor controller, and it's going to be the left controller. So let's drag and drop that in here. And similarly for the right hand controller as well. So let's drag and drop it in here. Now we need to reference in one more place, and that is in the controller interactors. We have the component called interactor group, and it already has the poke interactor. We need to drag and drop the grab interactor, and same thing for the right hand as well. So let us drag and drop the interactors. Alright, so with that we have set up the interactor. Now it's time to set up the interactable. Now we'll create a simple cube and a 3D cube, and we'll make that as an interactable object. So we'll right click in the hierarchy, go to 3D objects and click on cube. Let us reset its position to 0, reduce its scale to 0.2, bring it slightly up, and here, there we go. Now to make this an interactable component, there are like around 3 to 4 components that we need to add. Now the first one that it requires is a box collider or any sort of collider. It already has a box collider. Now we need to add the rigid body component. Now here you can check gravity or uncheck is kinematic based on what type of interaction you want to have. Now for now I'll leave it at use gravity so that the object falls down. And next component that we need to add is a grabbable component. So let's add the grabbable component. Now here there are few parameters. It says transfer on second hand selection. So if you're holding with your left hand and you use your right hand or right controller and try to grab it, it automatically releases from your left hand and it comes to your right hand. Now if you have this unchecked, then until and unless you release it from your left hand, you'll not be able to grab it from your right hand. So there's one more component here which says add new points to front. So we don't have to bother about it right now. It's not really important. So let's see where it go. Yeah, here we have, and then it has a forward element, so we don't want to add that one as well. And then we have two more. One is one grab transformer and two grab transformer. Now if you leave this blank and you try to press play, it will automatically add the one grab transformer. So one grab transformer is nothing but a component which says that you can grab any object using just one hand, so left hand or right hand. Now two hand grab transformer. Now if you want the object to be grabbed by both the hands and only then you want to be able to move it around, then you need to add a component called as to grab free transformer and drop it in here. We'll do that later on, but for now we'll leave it blank, or better we'll just search for one grab free transformer, add this component here, and then drag and drop this in this parameter. Alright, and finally we need one more component, and that is going to be the grab interactable component. And here we have few more parameters. The first one is the max interactors. So -1 indicates infinity, or if you max interactors are basically the number of interactors that can interact with the cube. Like you can just so for now we have two, but if you are in, say, suppose a metaverse, and then there are a lot of people trying to interact with the same cube, then you can define how many interactors can interact with it. And selecting interactors also like is slightly different. So for example, you can use your controllers to hover over or go inside the cube to grab it, but selecting interactors define the number of people or number of interactors that can actually select it and move it around. So -1 indicates infinity, and if you want to set any particular value, you can add that here. Then we have the pointable element, so that is going to be the grabbable. So let us drag it and drop it in here. It needs a rigid body component which you have added, so let us drag and drop that as well. Perfect. And then if you want, you can give a grab source, but we leave it blank. We don't want to give it as a grab source. And then release distance can be 0, and reset grab on, yeah, we'll set this to 0. Now there's one more component called as physics grabbable. Now at this particular stage, if you try to hit play and grab it, what would happen is you will not be actually able to grab it and pull it around, and that's because the gravity is continuously acting on it. So to tackle that, there's one more component that we need to add, and that's called as physics grabbable. So let us go ahead and add that physics grabbable. Perfect. And drag and drop this component in here. So now with the physics grabbable component in place, now when you try to grab the cube, it gets grabbed, you can lift it, and then once you release it, it drops back into place. All right, so with that, we have set up our scene. Now you can save this scene and let us test this out. Now before we test it, you need to make sure that your device is connected to your machine using the link cable or air link. Now if you're not sure how that's done, then you should definitely check out this video over here. And once you have connected it, all you need to do is press the play button, and let's put on the headset. Let's get the controllers. Okay, so now both the controllers have like these two spheres. Now they are nothing but debug visuals. So if I try to interact with the cube, it just indicates that it's an interactable. And once I grab it, you can actually see it turns green. There we go. And I can grab the cube and move it around. I can grab it with my right controller as well. So let's keep the headset aside and exit the play mode. So now you saw how to use direct interactor using one hand. Now we'll see how to use both the hands. It's really simple. All you need to do is select the cube, scroll down, and let us add the component called as toGrab free interactor, free transformer, toGrab free transformer, and then drag and drop this inside the toGrab transformer parameter of the grabbable component. And now in here, if you see, there are certain constraints that we can have, like the minimum scale and maximum scale. Now that's like, for example, if you want to grab the object and scale it up or scale it down, so you can have minimum, maximum. If you don't want that, then you can leave it blank. Now just to show you guys, I'll just add a small value. So we'll start with 0.2 and have a maximum scale of 0.5 and save the scene, and let's press play. Alright, so here you can see that since I have one grab transformer already there, I'll be able to grab it using single hand as well, and I can use both the hands to grab it, scale it down and move them around and play around with it. This is really cool and it works perfectly fine. And now let us exit the play mode. So with that, you have learned to use the grab interactor and use direct interaction. Now let's see how to use the ray interactors and manipulate the object using the ray interaction. Alright, so using ray interaction to grab an object is almost the same as the previous one, and there are just few changes, so let's see what they are. Now the first one is to add the interactor. So earlier we add the grab interactor, now this time we'll be using the ray interactor. So let's go ahead and search for controller ray interactor. So here we go, we have the prefab, and let us drag and drop this in here like previously. So we'll call this as left. Drag and drop this inside the controller interactors. For the right controller, we'll call this as right. And now it's time to reference them. So for the left controller, it's going to be the left controller, and for the right controller, it's going to be the right controller. And finally, we need to add it to the interactor group as well. So let's drag and drop this in here, and let us drag and drop this in here. Perfect. So now we have set up the interactor. Now we'll set up the interactable. Now I'm just going to duplicate the same cube. So let me just duplicate it, and instead of cube 1, I'll just call it as ray interactable. There we go. So we have the ray interactable cube. I'm just going to duplicate this cube, and instead of cube 1, call it as ray cube, and then we'll move it towards my left side. And the only difference here is that we need to remove the grab interactable and add the ray interactable. So let's go ahead and remove the grab interactable component and add the Ray interactable component here. Now again here the max interactors, max selecting interactors represent the number of interactors that can interact with it. It needs a pointable element, so let's go up, grab the grabbable component and drop it in here. It needs a collider, so we can just drag and drop the same game object. Since it already has a collider, it gets added automatically. And that's it. Now we can save the scene. And probably there's one more thing that we could do. We'll not have gravity for now. We'll make it as ease kinematic, and let's save the scene and test this out. Here you can see that my left controller and right controllers have the rays, and if I try to interact with this cube, nothing happens, and that's because this does not have a ray interactor. Whereas this cube it has, and as soon as I try to interact, you can see that there's a pointer that's shown. Now to interact with it, all I need to do is press the trigger button, and there you go, I can interact with it. Now there's one thing that you might notice, and that is that you'll be able to manipulate it only in one particular plane. So if I'm grabbing this surface, I'll be able to move it only in this particular plane. And if I grab this surface, I'll be able to move it in that particular plane. Now there's one more thing that you need to know. So say suppose the pointer is here, and if you try to move it too fast, the pointer just slips over the edge and the cube position gets reset. So let me see. So here you go, I just showed it to you. So when you move your controllers too fast, it just goes over the edge and it gets reset. So if you find that when you're testing it out this happens, then you need to know that it's happening to everybody. I think this is a small bug and this has to be fixed in the future updates. Alright, so now let's exit the play mode. So with that, you have learned about grab interaction using a grab interactor and a ray interactor. Now, if you want to know how to use your own hands to grab an object, then you should definitely check out our Immersive Insiders page. I will leave a link for that in the description. And if you feel that this video has helped you, then I'd highly appreciate it if you can like and leave a subscribe to this channel. By the way, we have linked a free ebook in the description which talks about the biggest mistakes you could make as an aspiring developer. You should definitely check it out because it will give you a huge edge over others. Also, if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions or any particular topic that you would like me to cover, then do let us know in the comments below. And as always, I will see you in the next one.